Hi everyone, it's Zach here. Today I want to talk to you about how you can pay off debt fast and how you can save money as early as possible. These are the principles that I've applied in my own life, and I believe they will be helpful to you as you move forward in achieving your financial goals. Let's jump into it. Now, the first strategy you want to apply to pay off debt fast is to identify how much debt you have. Now, this can be a daunting task because some of us don't want to identify that right out of the gate. We might have significant student loans, car loans, credit card bills, and a whole variety of things that are weighing down on us right now, and it can be overwhelming to see just how much debt we've accumulated over time. Therefore, it's really important to gain a comprehensive picture, a really clear understanding of how much debt you and I have in order for us to be able to tackle this goal. There are various methods you can go about doing this. You can simply get a pad and a pen, start writing it down. You can get a spreadsheet in Excel and start typing it in. You can use a budget tracking app, whatever you want to do. The most important thing first is to identify how much debt you have. The second step you want to take when it comes to paying off your debt fast is to track your spending over the next 30 days. Now, I know this once again can seem a little bit overwhelming because you might not have a budget set right now, but if you're able to track how much you spend over the course of the next month, it will give you a bigger picture and understanding of exactly where your money is going and where you may have additional discretionary income that could go towards your higher interest debts. So this is something I would strongly recommend, and there are various tools that you can use for this. One would be Mint, and other one would be EveryDollar. Basically, completing a comprehensive budget to understand where your money is going in and out. You might spend a good amount of money on eating out. You might spend a good amount of money on shopping or doing discretionary things that aren't helping you to pay down your debt. Now, I know once again, we want to make sure we live a life of balance and moderation so you're still able to live in the present, do fun things, but also achieve your long-term goals. In order to achieve your long-term goals, the best way to accomplish that is without having mountains of debt weighing you down. Whether, once again, it's a student loan, a car loan, credit cards, or anything to that extent, being able to tackle this is a very critical step in order to achieve your financial goals. Alright, so after you've identified how much debt you have and where your spending is going over the next 30 days, the next step you want to take is to move forward in understanding the areas where you need to spend money versus the areas where you want to spend money. And if you're able to have a bifurcated approach to understanding where your budget can be placed, it's going to allow you to identify the areas where that money that you don't need to spend can go towards your debt. Now, this is really critical because we all have expenses that occur every single month that we need to attend to, whether that is a mortgage, rent, a car payment, insurance, or anything to that extent. Obviously, your food and groceries are critical, so making sure that you have a clear identified list of what you need to spend money on every month, and then identifying what you want to spend money on every month, because there may be some sacrifice involved in order to achieving this goal of paying off all of your debt. So if you see something that you want to buy at a store, or if you want to go out on a special trip, or if you want to go to a restaurant, it may be something that you have to sacrifice in the short term in order to achieve your long-term goals. And that, I believe, is a very important principle to operate with, not just for the concept of debt, but the concept of life. And that is making sure that we're not always trying to seek short-term gratification. If we are able to delay some of our short-term gratification, it enables us to achieve long-term goals. So I believe if we can do this by identifying the areas in our budget where we want to spend versus where we need to spend, it will enable us to move forward on a proper pathway in order to pay down your debt. And I once again really want to emphasize that this is so helpful. I've gone through this in my own personal life. When I had significant sums of debt, it really weighed me down. It was something that affected my relationships, my work habits, my daily life, because I was stressed and I was overwhelmed with not knowing how I was going to get out of this hole. And in order to get out of that hole, it required some sacrifice. So I would strongly recommend identifying what you want to spend your money on versus what you need to spend your money on. And as part of this approach, what you want to do is remove everything out of the area in your want to spend money list and place that into your need to spend money list, and having a need to spend money list actually include your debt inside of it. So this is something you really want to strongly consider. And in addition to that, you may even want to consider areas in your household, areas in your life where you have things that you don't really need anymore and you could actually sell them. My wife and I did that when we were in debt. We actually identified areas where we had extra clothing, where we had extra items, extra electronics, things that we really didn't need but had value in the marketplace, and we decided to sell them, take that money, and go directly to our our debt. And it really was helpful, not only from the perspective of it achieving our goal of moving down to having zero debt, but also helping us to minimize the clutter, minimize the areas in our life where we didn't need extra accumulation of things, in order for us to understand that it was helpful for us to have less stuff, in order for us to be able to enjoy one another, because then we're not accumulating more things, accruing more debt. We're actually focused on living in the present, enjoying our relationship, going out and enjoying activities. And when we're not accumulating stuff, we're actually able to have more fun and live a more full and joyful life. So I just would strongly recommend, as you're considering the areas of your budget where you want to spend versus you need to spend, try and eliminate as much of the things that you want to spend money on, sell some of the things that you don't need, and keep tackling that debt as hard as you possibly can, because that is ultimately going to free you up to live a more full and meaningful and joyful life. Now, another strategic approach that some people take when it comes to utilizing their ways to pay off debt is actually a concept called debt consolidation. Now, there are various approaches you can take with this, but I would be very cautious when looking into it. The only way that it would even make considerable sense is if you're able to get something, say like a 0% credit card, and then be able to take that, pay no interest on it, absorb all of your debt onto that credit card, and then begin paying it down. This is something that you can use. It's a strategy that some people have done in the past, and it does work on certain occasions. Now, you might want to consider if you have, substantial sums of student loans or substantial car loans or anything like that, it might not be transferable in this particular instance. But if you have significant, credit card bills and you're on a high interest credit card, if you're able to transfer that to a 0% interest rate credit card, that could be a smart approach. But once again, when it comes to dealing with debt, you don't want to have yourself adding more debt into this equation. Your whole goal is to pay off the debt completely. So I would just be cautious that anytime you do have a credit card, you pay it off in full every month, you do not carry a balance ever, and you always try to maintain a 0% or the lowest possible interest rate you can when it comes to obtaining a credit card. So really just proceed with caution when it comes to this approach. It's just one additional avenue I wanted to share with you, and it's something that could potentially work in your circumstance, but if it doesn't, that's totally fine. It's just another strategy that I wanted to share with you. Now that we've gone through the process of understanding how much debt that we have, going through and tracking our spending over a month, identifying the areas in our budget where we need to spend money versus the areas where we want to spend money, cutting out the areas where we want to spend, selling certain things, maybe consolidating your debt into a 0% credit card interest, now you're going to move forward in the process of actually paying off your debt. And there are a few strategies that you can approach this with. And one I'd like to share with you was popularized by a gentleman by the name of Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey came up with what's called the debt snowball method. And the debt snowball method is basically this. You start with your smallest debt first, you work on paying that debt off completely, and after you've paid that debt, then you move on to your second debt, and that one is going to be the one you focus completely on paying off. And you continue to move forward as you go up the balance rate until you reach your highest level of debt and you pay that debt off completely. Now, this might be easier said than done, but there's a lot of psychology and human behavior that's attributed to making this successful. So when you're actually focused on paying off an individual debt, you're tackling it with full-fledged laser-like focus, and once you pay that off, let's say right now if you're paying the minimum balance on a credit card that you have $1,000 left on, and you're paying that off at the minimum rate of say $25 a month, let's say you turn that up to $250 a month, and you keep tackling that over 4 months and you pay that debt off completely. Then what you would do is you take that same $250 and now apply that to the next debt on your snowball, and then you continue to do that as you move forward. So by the end of your debt snowball, you're placing very large sums of money into the largest debt on a monthly basis, and you're doing everything you can to pay that completely off. Now, this approach has been proven to be very successful, and I would strongly recommend some of the resource that Dave Ramsey offers. He offers a course called Financial Peace University. You can enroll in this online. In addition, he has a budgeting tracking app called Every Dollar. I personally use this and found it to be very intuitive, very comprehensive, and really simple to use, and it's something that has helped myself when it comes to budgeting and tracking my expenses and never carrying debt. So that's one approach you can take, the debt snowball method. All right, so in addition to the debt snowball method, there's also the debt avalanche method, and this takes a slightly different approach. What you do in the debt avalanche method is you begin with the highest interest rate debt you have first, and then move down the line until you reach your lowest interest rate debt. The theory being that you're paying the most amount of interest every month on your highest interest debt, so therefore the quicker you can tackle that, the less money you're going to spend ultimately on that particular debt, and the lower interest rate, you're not spending as much every month. So either approach you take, debt snowball method or debt avalanche method, the most important thing is that you and I are focused on paying down debt. And if you can find a method that works best for you, please approach that in the most intuitive manner and most comprehensive manner possible, because I personally can attest to having been freed from debt in my life and the significant difference it made, not just personally when it comes to my finances, but personally when it comes to my relationships, my work habits, my lifestyle. Everything has really substantially changed ever since I got out of debt, and you can attest to this in your own life and find the ways that you're going to improve in other areas outside of your finances. And that's something I really want to stress here. When I'm making videos or talking with you about finance, it's not just that I want to focus on money, because I believe money is not something that we should be constantly considering, constantly focusing on, but I do believe that once we have our financial systems in place, once we have our personal finances in order, it significantly changes and transforms the way in which we can approach every single day. We're able to do so with more gusto. We're able to do so where we actually are not so focused on the stressors of life, like finances. We're able to focus on the areas of meaning and value and purpose in our life, like making a difference in our community, helping those who we love and who we consider to be friends, doing better work in the marketplace, whatever it might be. It allows us to have the freedom and flexibility to be more creative, to be able to enjoy life more fully, and then have the resources necessary to achieve your goals. Like I said, whether you're wanting to buy an engagement ring, purchase a house, buy a car, go on a nice vacation, be able to go out to eat, whatever your goals are financially, when you have your finances in order and when you don't have debt weighing you down, it really enables you to move forward to achieve those goals. So I'm hopeful that this approach of paying off debt, whether it's debt avalanche or debt snowball, can be a strategic method that can help you move forward on your journey to paying off debt fast. Now, an additional strategy you can use to pay off debt fast is to actually try and bring in additional income. Once again, I know this is much easier said than done, but there are a plethora of opportunities that exist out there right now in society where we can bring in additional revenue outside of our current vocations. One you could look at would actually being an online tutor. My wife teaches Chinese students English while she's teaching them online. It's something that you could look into doing. You could look into driving for Uber, for Lyft. You could do any sort of side hustle that works for you. Maybe you have a creative skill such as photography, videography. Maybe you're a really good consultant in a certain area where you can assist people in whatever area of industry you like or you're successful in right now. But then if you're able to pick up a side hustle, whatever that looks like for you, and take that money and then place that into your debt, that's a really strategic approach to take. Now, I have constantly worked multiple jobs over the course of my adult life, and it's been very fruitful for myself. Not only does it help me to value my sole main focus of a job, but it also provides a nice variety, so that way I am sharper, I'm more engaged, and also more in touch with other areas of the economy, so that way that actually assists me in my current position. For example, a period of my life I worked in the public sector, the private sector, and the nonprofit sector simultaneously. I was serving as an elected official, I ran a business, and I also was able to serve in a nonprofit by helping youth. And that is something I found to be very interesting. I was able to gain and ascertain different perspectives of how finances were affecting the economy in the business and the private sector, how those finances actually made an effect in the public sector as to how the local government was able to allocate them to make strategic investments in certain neighborhoods to help and build infrastructure, and then also in the nonprofit area where we're able to make a tangible difference in the lives of students. So all that to say, if you're able to bring on an additional area of your life where you can bring in additional revenue and additional income, it's something that not only can help you tackle your debt, that also can give you a broader perspective of life. And in addition to that, if you continue maintaining that side hustle, what I would then suggest is pivoting from paying off debt and where you're just trying to get out from a hole Now you take that additional income and you invest it into the market, such as in an index fund, or if you don't have one, opening up, say, a Roth IRA, a 401k, or doing something very simple on your phone like Acorns, where you can actually, make a transaction in the marketplace, then it rounds up your transaction, invest that into the market. So whatever you want to try and do, I suggest taking a side job can really be fruitful and beneficial from a broad perspective of your life. With all that being said, I really want to thank you for taking time to watch this video. If you wouldn't mind liking this video, it would actually really help me for the YouTube algorithm, and I would very much appreciate it. In addition, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment down below. I'd love to interact with you, hear from you, and gain any insight or perspective that you have. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to this channel, that would actually mean a lot to me. I'm going to continue to create additional content that I hope will be helpful for you. So if you take the time to subscribe right now, that would mean a lot. And when doing so, feel free to smash the notification bell. That way you're notified anytime that I post a video online. So once again, really thank you for taking the time today, and until next time, I hope you have a great day.